Okay, let's give a brief overview of Binondo, Chinatown here in Manila. I'll first give just a very brief sort of my views, if you like, a rundown of my thoughts of Chinatown, Binondo. It's all right. It's got all the things that you would expect of a Chinatown. It's got mostly, I would say, that there was actually a kind of a balance between the groceries, and naturally you see a lot of Chinese sort of groceries being sold, and cake shops and snack shops, as well as restaurants. I got quite shall I say confused about the way. Okay, so trying to identify certain foods like dim sum, and there is one place which I will visit which has been recommended to me by a couple of locals now, which is the Y Ying. But looking at it on Google, it's been named as well, basically a fast food restaurant, something like that. And one of the other restaurants I was queuing at that I later on changed my mind to go to, the one I ended up going in, that was also named a fast food. Now that's confusing. Obviously I'm not a local, but that was confusing to me because fast food where I come from is more to do with well, you know fast food, right? You know, Mackie D's, KFC, things that are basically done and literally takes I mean, if you're talking about McDonald's and KFC, they're done, and unless all the chicken is sold in a KFC, then it's not going to be fast food. You're going to be waiting 20 minutes at least for the chicken to be fried. So why does it confuse me? As I say, fast food, I relate it to more of the fast food outlets, which, I mean, it doesn't need to be a famous franchise outlet to be fast food, although they're best known for fast food. You can get plenty of or any types of food. Now I've got this fly, and the flies are really attracted to my leg. And the other day when I was at the cash point, I was at ATM, and I was shaking my leg because all the flies were gathering around me. And then I got, as I was flicking it off my legs, a load of flies came onto my arms, and to flick my arms around it looked like I was doing this dance move, right? As I was flicking both my arms and legs around, standing in a big queue for the ATM. So, when you talk about fast food, I wouldn't associate. Dim sum is not fast food. All right, let's get that one straight. Dim sum is not fast food. And that's it. There's no two ways about it. So that's what confused me about it. So my thoughts on Chinatown, what I'd say after going there for the first time, and I don't think I even covered a lot of the parts. When I got there, I was very hungry. I didn't realise I would get lost and struggle to find what I wanted. So what I would say, from what I did cover, so what you need to look for first of all is on Ping Street if you're looking for Chinatown. And the other thing is obviously Binondo Church. You either look for Binondo Church, because on Ping Street starts virtually right there, and you go to On Ping Street, you are in Chinatown. So like I say, a good mix of your restaurants. I would say there are a few of them that look very popular. They do your dim sums, which I say is a staple and is essential to any Chinatown. It is, all right. And then you need, you know, when it comes to authentic restaurants, you need your roast duck essentially in some places called crispy, or sometimes referred to as crispy duck, because that's how proper roast duck should be. The skin should be crispy as well, if it's made in the right way. Crispy roast pork, like sort of pork belly, you know, very crispy, crispy skin pork. And then you got your roast pig as well. Again, I mean, over here, the very similar thing, not exactly the same, because Chinese have their own version of a roast pig. But over here, they call it lechon. So in a Chinese restaurant, it would be a roast pig with crispy skin, right? I would say simple, well-known dishes like wonton noodle soup, dumpling noodle soup, Hainanese chicken rice, clay pot dishes, clay pot rice dishes. Yeah. There are certain meals which not only do they have to taste right, you know, the reason why you would have a Chinese restaurant which doesn't, I mean, you know, whoever has a Chinese restaurant, whatever Chinese restaurant there is, obviously it is up to them what they want to put on a menu. But if the owners and the management know what they're doing, they're confident that they know what they're doing, they will do those dishes. Yeah. Now, what's hard about wonton is the actual filling itself, and there are certain aspects of, say, something like a wonton and a dumpling which makes it authentic. And there's certain parts of Malaysia where the filling will be made by the chef unless they outsource the actual food items. Yeah, but there have been certain places in Malaysia that have made their fillings that are just they're not good wontons, man. Yeah. Dumplings as well, exactly the same. And when you go to your roast duck, roast pork, roast pig, everything, obviously pork and pig is the same thing, but the reason why I talk about roast pig is because, you know, you refer it to a roast pig because you are roasting the whole pig, whereas the roast pork is more referred to as the belly. So ever tried roasting a pork belly yourself and cutting it up? That's kind of like what it looks like. But I hope I would hope that a roast pork in the restaurant, in a Chinese restaurant, would look a little bit better. Your Hainanese chicken. Now the Hainanese chicken, if you were to look in an ingredients book, well, you know, you just look down an ingredients list of Hainanese chicken and the method of cooking this meal, you would, it would probably look a lot, I'd say it looks a lot easier than what you see in an ingredients book. There is a certain method to making really good, authentic Hainanese chicken. The sauce is absolutely, it's essential, right? As I say, roast duck, roast pork, roast pig, wonton, dumplings, and if we talk about dim sum, okay, we'll talk a bit about dim sum. Dim sum, as I say, is a staple. It's why I was looking for it. You know, if I go into a Chinatown, the first meal that I would look for is a dim sum. Dim sum is the staple, what you eat, what all Chinese people eat to go and meet for lunch, brunch, early afternoon meal, basically to meet up. Yeah, they call it yum cha, which is drink tea, but rather than the direct translation of saying drink tea, the literal meaning and the, shall I say, virtual meaning of it rather than literal, because literal meaning of that yum cha is drink tea, but when it's been referred to, it's a term rather than, you know, those words, the literal meaning. So what I mean by that is when you say to someone, let's drink tea sometime, or let's drink tea tomorrow. Are you free tomorrow lunchtime? Let's go and drink tea. Excuse me, choked on a bit of saliva then. And the reference that you're using, shall I say, the term that you're using is, do you want to meet up for lunch? Do you want to meet up for something to eat? You're not talking about drinking tea, going to a cafe, you're going to Starbucks and you're going to have a quick cup of tea there. No, it's a specific term using a specific meaning, which means we'll go out to eat tomorrow. Yeah. So what is involved in yum cha? Well, obviously anything you want to eat could mean snacks or whatever, but like I say, it usually comes down to specifically dim sum, yum cha, and you know what we're going to have when we go and eat is dim sum. Now it is a staple, it is as traditional as you get, and as I say, if I go into a Chinatown, I need to go and look for a dim sum. So let me go on to say something like, okay, now you've got restaurants, like I say, any restaurant comes down to the owner, management, whatever, and anyone can serve what they want. You can mix, you know, different types of food and serve it all in one restaurant. It's really up to, you know, I've seen, like, what was it, in Asia, and I can't remember specifically where, but it was like, yeah, it was like Italian stroke American. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you go to America and, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of Italian restaurants. Italian restaurants are popular in America. But that wasn't the only one that I've seen, the mixture between Italian and American. So let me give you an example. Pizza, which is very widely used when it comes to restaurants. Spaghetti, yeah. And then American food. Hamburgers, quarter pounders. So, you know, I'm coming down to maybe one of the more lower of the common denominators here. And then I'll go on to particular restaurants, and that's normally categorized by way of, you know, rather than types of food, types of food come in, their own types of food in different countries and cultures, right? So you would normally get, say, like a tapas restaurant, Spanish restaurant, an Indian restaurant doing mostly curry, Chinese restaurant, Italian, etc. Now if you go down to a particular type of restaurant, so now I'm going to Chinese. I don't particularly know anything about Italian. I mean, you know, if you ask me about Italian food, spaghetti, pizza, linguine, which is a pasta anyway, lasagna, right? We talk about Chinese food. Let's go into Chinese food now, because what I mentioned just before this category, I kind of like sort of mentioning stages of quality. Chinese food is the only one which I have, which I would suggest I have a little bit of an inkling in the sense of food. And so you could talk about fast food, you could talk about food that is just, you know, you get sort of random things put in, or very arbitrary things put in, like chicken wings and some, I don't know, some noodles, and then you got some pizza, and then you got some naan, like kebabs or something like that. And you do have places like that, not so much of restaurants, but I can tell you, like takeaways and kiosks, food kiosks. I'm seeing some of those pop up, very confusing. And I'm just saying that, you know, I'm not saying it's bad in any way. I mean, I personally don't, you know, as soon as I see something which is like mixed in that way, like the different foods, different types of foods that don't have a particular identity, I don't go and eat there. So you got your next one, and a very good example, let's say in England, you got this in the States as well. Now the menu is going from your rice dishes, fried rice, yeah, whatever, noodles, fried noodles, all the stuff that you can make in a wok. Yeah, yeah, most Chinese food done out of wok. Everything that's done out of a wok. Let's say a restaurant like this, I would not see any roast dishes like your roast duck, roast pig and all of that. And the one really authentic thing missing from the menu is dim sum. And I'd say most places, it has to be a very specific, like either Chinatown or specific enclosed Chinese type estates, how do you call it, like community, right? But mostly dim sum in Chinatown, England. Yeah. Virtually all, but not all. So places in South London where there are a few dim sum restaurants here and there, but they are specific places, and they are far away from each other, so you wouldn't get one in one town and one even in the next town. You know they're miles and miles apart from each other, and even then, like I'd say there's like literally a handful, if that, of dim sum restaurants outside of London, Chinatown, in that area. You'll have a Chinatown in Manchester, so I'm talking about like more that area, in that area. So that'll be like the southeast area, the London area, or the outskirts. You would, the next place after that, you would have to go to the other big cities like Manchester and Birmingham, where they each have a Chinatown, and they will have dim sum restaurants. Any other restaurant, any local Chinese restaurant or takeaway, they don't do dim sum. They don't do roast duck. They don't do Hainanese chicken. They don't do wonton. Although I suspect, I mean, I haven't been to one of these outside Chinese takeaways for a while now. Wonton would certainly be, a decent wonton is very difficult to make. An authentic, decent, authentic wonton is difficult to make. But that doesn't mean that the takeaway or the business that you go to have to make it nice. They just have to make it. And it could be whatever it is. It could taste like whatever. It doesn't stop them selling it, right? So wonton is one of those things which I suspect could be on a menu. Flies going around everywhere. But your roasts are more difficult. They take a lot more time. Yeah. Now I know that you get roast pork in a lot of Chinese restaurants, in many of them, if not all of them. They usually get it from the suppliers, from if they've got a big Chinese warehouse near to them, and they will be able to get roast pork already made, already prepared. So I'd say like a lot of restaurants in London, for instance, or anywhere where it's not inconvenient to order from a Chinatown, like Manchester, Birmingham, I would suggest that for the most part they probably do roast pork in their fried rice, and you know, in whatever dishes, you know, you could get away with doing a whole roast pork rice dish, right? It's not going to taste good, because it's not fresh. Yeah. You go to a dim sum restaurant that does roasts as well, because they kind of go hand in hand with the roast. If you find a good roast place that does the roast pork from scratch, fresh, they're your dim sum places, right? And vice versa. But I can tell you now, if you go to a place which they don't do roasts, but the restaurant has sourced it from, well, you know, sourced it somewhere else, and it's not made fresh in the actual establishment, shall I say, in the kitchen there, it's going to be hard and chewy. It's not going to be nice at all. I was talking about dim sum being, you know, you can talk about roasts in the same way. If it's not hot and it's not like practically as it's come out of the steamer, as it's come out of the kitchen, like, you know, out of wherever they've cooked them in and straight onto the table, and then you eat it not long after that, because dim sum is so nice, it's so tasty, it is so Moorish. But when it gets cold, you know, when you're sitting with a friend having a dim sum, don't mess around. You know, forget about like you ain't seen them for 10 years, 15 years or whatever, and catch up whatever. Eat your dim sum first and then catch up later. I'm telling you, dim sum is not one of those dishes you want to be eating cold. Yeah. But when you eat it when you're supposed to eat it, it's really good. It's really, I mean, it's the best. All right. And so that's why I go to, you know, finish up on, because I don't want to. I'll be as critical as I need to be, but I don't. How should I say it? I don't really want to just slate these restaurants, because a lot of time, you know, they are popular with a lot of people. they got business, they make money. Yeah. What I really criticize is when food is not fresh. When food is not fresh. Now, I'm not saying whatever happens, but I know what is fresh. It's not actually difficult to, you know, you just got to know, just like anything else. Either you know or you don't. And to know what to look out for. And I know what is fresh dim sum. And in any case, when a restaurant is at that level to do dim sum, they're not gonna, there's gonna be no reheating or people reusing stuff, yeah, or reheating stuff and leftovers. That's why I say there is a certain standard of that. So it's all right. Yeah, I'll come away from sort of like, I don't know, do I call it a middle tier? You know, I probably don't have the credentials, shall I say, to call it middle tier. No, you know, for the purposes of this topic, I'd say, yeah, you know, you have to describe it somewhere. I'd say middle tier, because the top tier is most certainly your dim sum restaurant. It most certainly is. So yeah, that's my explanation. You know, you go to a Chinese restaurant and they do dim sum and your roasts, you're going to a very high quality Chinese restaurant there. Or at least, you know, it's kind of like the difference between your Michelin star restaurants, like your Western Michelin star restaurant. I don't know, like, because, you know, the quality is going to be there. I mean, I can't remember the last time because the last time I went to, I would say, a Michelin star restaurant was in Bangkok, and that was really expensive for a very small amount of food. And that's what I'm just trying to say, is that when you go to those restaurants, the portions are just so small, and you know, yeah, you know, I know it's all about the quality and everything, but you know, the kind of small portions that I had that time was ridiculous. Yeah. All right, so we're going back to BINONDO here, and what I had. Now, I think I'm going to have to do voiceovers here, because when I was talking, I was looking back in the video and the music was actually really loud. It overtook, I don't know about overtook, or you know, at the very least it went sort of, you know, it made my voice very difficult to hear. It made what I said difficult to hear. But I didn't realise that when I was filming it, I was doing two things, weren't I? I was vlogging and I was eating, and I really didn't notice the music that I had on. And it's only looking back at the clip, the video that I shot, and the music was horrendously loud. It was really loud, and you know, I'm watching back at me talking. I'm listening to things that I've said myself, right? And even I'm finding it difficult to make out what I've said, right? And that's how bad that's how loud the music. It was loud, and it totally obscured my commentary. Yeah, totally obscured it. And so I don't really like, I like to do things raw. I like things in its original format, and although editing's gotta be done, like, you know, I want at least the original footage there. When you start doing rolls over the previous one and then taking out the sound to do talk over rolls on the original footage, you know, that, I mean, in this case it has to be done, but I'd rather, you know, have had it raw there and then, eating the stuff, talking to you, telling you all about it, and having it all in that way, rather than you know, just showing you the visuals and then, you know, having a separate talk over it. As I say, I'm gonna have to go through it, so let me go through the dishes one by one, and I will firstly talk about the actual dim sum. Oh, the 3 dim sum dishes, which were the siu mai, ha gao, and the chicken's feet. And the reason why I say like the first 2 in Chinese and then the third one is like, why'd you mention it in English? It's how it's known. So even if you say it in English, siu mai is known as siu, it's like spelt phonetically, and then that's how you say it phonetically, yeah, and then ha gao as well. But what siu mai is basically pork and shrimp, like decent siu mai. I think I've seen like little kiosks around, maybe even 7-Eleven in Asia that have those little steamer cabinets, right? And then you can buy, well, it's shown on there as dim sum, but I would not want to have dim sum from a 7-Eleven. So anyway, siu mai is a lot more difficult to give a direct translation from, because as I say, when you look on a menu, it will literally be spelt out phonetically rather than, you know, so it's very difficult to give you a direct translation of that. The ha gao, okay, and the reason why it's called ha gao, I'll give you a direct translation for that. Ha is prawn, yeah, obviously it's prawn, and the gao is the skin, yeah. It's kind of like, can I describe it as sticky or a little bit chewy? But then when I talk about ha gao, the skin a little bit chewy, I'm trying to give a texture. Hopefully it won't be really that chewy when you have it. Hopefully it'll be soft, like glutinous kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's better to describe it as kind of like gluteny. And that's where you got the gao. That's kind of like, you know, that sort of description, shall I say? Yeah. So ha gao is your prawn and the wrapping to it, the skin or the wrapping. Probably better to call it a wrapping, isn't it? Really? Yeah, because it's wrapped. You put the prawn in there and you wrap it with the wrapping. Yeah, the glutinous wrapping. And then the chicken's feet. Well, there is a Chinese translation, and all these translations are from Cantonese because dim sum originates from Guangdong in China, and it later spread out to Hong Kong. So really you could call dim sum originally a Guangdong Canton stroke Hong Kong dish. In fact, that's what it is. And so all the dishes are, the original names for the dishes are in Cantonese. So yeah, the direct translation for chicken's feet is, you know, if you were to request it in Chinese, it's chicken's feet. Okay, shall I go from down to go up, or shall I go best or to the worst? I'm gonna go from the best to the worst. The best was the siu mai. The taste was pretty good, seasoned well, And one thing that impresses me over, like say KL for instance, Kuala Lumpur, it beats the siu mai in Kuala Lumpur, and that is saying something. That is saying something. So I'll give, yeah, I'm giving like really good marks for the siu mai that I had in this meal. All right. And then not just the taste, but all in all, not just the taste, but something that I'll factor in as well that beats KL siu mai is that the KL siu mai is smaller, and so your siu mai over here, I'd say this restaurant I went to, Chinatown, BINONDO, Manila, was not just tasty but very good value for money. I noted that it was about 150 pesos, which is like £2.60, less than £2.60, and about $2.80 US, right? That's half price of London siu mai dishes, which obviously encompasses siu mai. So for value for money and the amount of meat that you get in there and of decent enough taste. Now, like I say, I mean, for my dim sum, I don't really use condiments. I'm certainly not going to use condiments if I want to taste, you know, do a food taste, a taste test, right, at that restaurant. I would at times put maybe a bit of chili sauce or chili oil, but it certainly is not the first thing I would look to do. You know, that sort of thing, you know, the flavor's already good and you enhance it, right? Well, okay, let me say about this. The siu mai that I had, adequate taste, but good value for money. The price, 150 pesos, and the amount of meat that you got in there. And it's your standard four, shall I say, individual items of siu mai in the bamboo steamer container thing, right? Okay, let's go to hagao. Another, like, dim sum is the staple of Chinese food, but things like siu mai and hagao are your essentials within a dim sum menu, if you know what I mean. The hagao, taste was good. The meat size, the shrimp, I'd say the meat, you know, the meat on the prawn was adequate size. Now this one, I think it was around 150. I know that the most expensive dim sum dish I bought, because it was 3 dim sum dishes that I ordered, right? And the most expensive one was 168 pesos. So just very, very slightly more than, you know, I can understand why they put, so what I'm talking about here is in relation to how much hagao they give you. And it was 5 pieces. Now the siu mai was 4 pieces, as I would expect in any one container, in any one order. There's 5 pieces of hagao. That might have been the slightly more expensive, but as I say, if you're talking the difference is just maybe over 10 pesos, that's like, what's 10 pesos? About 15p, 20 cents, something like that. And then you get an extra piece of the hagao to, you know, to most other places. Right, now this is where I go into, shall I say, nitpicking. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. But I noticed when it came out, the glutinous wrapping wasn't all intact. Because usually what happens is it's wrapped, it's steamed, all fresh, good to go, it comes out. The skin should not be cracked. What I'm talking about, split down various parts of it. Yeah, the skin, the wrapping should not be. It should just be smooth and totally wrapped around. There should not be any cracks in the skin. And the glutinous was more chewier than a hagao, which is, you know, that is made really well, really fresh. So my suspicions there is that it's been taken out, and for quickness, maybe re-steamed quickly to have it come out, because for it to crack like that, my suspicion is that it's been made already, because if it's been made fresh, like I say, the skin won't crack. It's going to be very soft and glutinous, right? If it's cracked, the only explanation that I can think of is that it's been cooled down, meaning that it's been cooked already for the first time at least. Then it's been gone to reheat. I'm not saying that's what's happened. I'm saying that could be an explanation. However, as I say, nothing wrong with the taste. The taste was good. The wrapping could have been softer, but well seasoned, and good adequate meat in the prawn, good sized prawn, and you get 5 pieces. So, you know, it's all included, isn't it? When we talk about the food, when we talk about value for money, we talk about the kind of volume, and hopefully, you know, the more the merrier, as long as the quality's there, right? And if the quality's there, it's even better, right? Siumai was the best. Hagao, good standard. Tasted quite decent. But that bit of observation that I had. Chicken's feet. Let me describe. I mean, in Chinatown, London Chinatown, it's all chopped up. The chicken's feet is all chopped up. It's like, it's marinade, but like all the sauce is like really juicy, and it's been steamed with, and it's been used with black bean and fresh chilies. So it's got that, you know, that savory and that juicy texture to it. So it really just falls off. You know, you spit out the bones, because the bones just come off as you put it in your mouth. Yeah, because you can't. It's not like eating a chicken wing or a chicken drumstick, right? Chicken's feet is so small and the bones are so small. You have to put the whole, you know, the way I eat it, I put the whole thing in my mouth, and I just spit out the bits of bone. I basically dissect or take apart the bones while it's in my mouth with my tongue and my teeth, and then whatever remains after spitting out all the bones is obviously what goes down my throat, right? Okay, so I kind of described chicken's feet. Now, the chicken's feet in this place was as is, as in wasn't chopped up, and it was like the whole feet. Now, I've seen that plenty of times. I don't have a major problem with that. In fact, when you eat Thai style chicken feet, which is a separate a meal in itself, right? Like you mostly get the skin of the feet, and I mean it tastes better than it sounds. and all the bones are taken away, but the skin of the feet aren't. It's not steamed, so it's soft. It's basically cooked while it's the skin texture is quite tough, and that's what makes it sort of tough, almost crunchy like feel. Because it's a different meal, you're gonna get a different texture, and that's the right texture to get for the Thai style chicken's feet, right? So yeah, that's all in one piece. That's great. But as I say, I've seen plenty of dim sum places, you know, in Malaysia and in Thailand, where they just have, you know, the feet. So they marinate the feet and then they steam it. Now, the ingredients for this one that I had, and I've never seen this before. So, you know, this is only one restaurant out of however many restaurants in that particular area. So they've, you know, I would say I've never had those kind of ingredients. So the ingredients being, well, first of all, the ingredients that I would expect for a good authentic steamed chicken feet dim sum is, as I say, it's essential to have that sauce, the black bean and the chilies. Yeah, those things weren't in there. It was obviously marinated, but not marinated. It wasn't tasty. But also, what I think would have skewed the taste was they chopped up in little pieces, like a red bell pepper and a green bell pepper. All I'm gonna say is it was not good at all. It's not good. I'm just gonna summarize this now. Wonton soup, bad. Fried rice, it's okay. Whack some chili oil in that, and we are well on our way. I would say it's a decent fried rice meal, and I had so much to take back anyway. I did that later on and having the leftovers, and it was, yeah, did the job. It was good. The fried noodles, I had them later on again. I could add my own chili to them as a leftover. It's fine, just because I said it wasn't crispy, which really should be the point of it. But just the meal itself, if you forget about the name of the dish, then it's just basically noodles in, you know, chicken sauce or whatever, right? It was good enough. Yeah, it was tasty. I'm afraid to say the chicken's feet was it was a big letdown. It was a big letdown. Just lousy. There is enough here to eat for 5 people. Easily for 5 people. So the cost of this was 50 pesos shy of 2,000 pesos, around just over 1,950 pesos. So that works out to be around 32 UK pounds, which is equal to about 36 US dollars. So we'll go down to what value for money is. Yeah, value for money, I'd give that a thumbs up, right? How many Chinese restaurants you go to locally in America or in England where you spend the low to middle 30 pounds or dollars for a meal for 5? And overall, it would be, I know that I nitpick, I've been nitpicking, but do you know what? If you're going out to have a meal and you want to suggest somewhere and it's nearby, I'd still choose this place because it's good value for money. And the reasons that I gave for my critique are really just, you know, it's being a bit picky, isn't it? It's getting to details where the sort of details that others won't care about, right? So I mean, you know, for that value and the taste is pretty good, I'd say yeah, overall it's not too bad at all. I can tell we are very near now to where we need to be. I would say that due to language barriers, the locals that I've approached to ask about dim sum, they probably don't understand my heavy South London Cockney accent. And or they just don't know what dim sum is. It's possible. I mean, you know, I'm not going to judge, and really it takes a Chinese person. Sorry, my friend, do you know of any good dim sum restaurant? Don't know. Okay, that's all right. I'll keep looking. Thank you. It really doesn't appear that I mean, to be fair, it is probably my accent.